Hi, I'm Renee McGregor. I'm a sports dietitian. I specialise in REDS, which is Relative Energy Deficiency Syndrome, female athletes, eating disorders in sport, and general athlete performance. Today I'm going to talk about how general fitness and exercise can actually impact your microbiome and improve your overall health. Studies have shown us that doing low to moderate intensity exercise can have a real beneficial effect on our microbiome. What it does is actually increase the diversity of the microbiome, and what we definitely know is that having a diverse microbiome is very, very important for our overall health and performance. One thing to be really mindful of is that our microbiome is different for everybody, so comparing our microbiome to each other is not very helpful. But what we do know is that certain influences can affect our microbiome. So your diet, your exercise, your lifestyle, sleep, genetics, all have an impact. And knowing what you can do best for you is really, really important. The one thing we also know though is that changes can have an effect on your microbiome. So that means that your microbiome is transient and it can also be reversible. So just because maybe you've had a bad patch, that doesn't mean you can't take it back to where it was to start with. One of the things we've seen with studies, and I think it's important to highlight here, that studies on general fitness have shown that there is a positive impact on our microbiome, but actually a lot of the studies are very short term. We still need some really good longitudinal studies to see the longer term impact on the microbiome and our health as well as our performance. But what we do know is that different types of exercise may be affected by actually the different types of diet. So we know that people who do a lot of resistance training will probably have a higher protein diet, and this will affect the microbiome in its own way. And similarly, those that do more endurance or cardio-based work will have more carbohydrate in their diet, and again, this will also impact the microbiome in its own way. That's not to say either are problematic. In fact, both have their own positive effects, but it's just to understand that actually it's the changes in diet rather than the actual exercise that will be the limiting factor. The other thing to understand is that actually, while we know that moderate to light exercise is good, there are some studies that are showing that maybe doing too much high intensity exercise or too much endurance exercise may have detrimental effects to our microbiome, especially if we don't fuel properly and especially if we actually have restrictive diets. One thing to remember is that all movement requires energy, and I think we do live in a society where we're constantly being told to move more and eat less. Now, as I've just said, restrictive eating might actually have a negative impact on our microbiome. So when you're thinking about fueling your movement, your exercise, whether that's 3 times a week or 5 times a week, it's really important to understand what you need to fuel your training for you. So if that means that you're going out for a 5K run 3 times a week, it's still important to know that having a diet high in whole grains is going to support that training, but also your microbiome. Similarly, if you are someone who is going to the gym 3 times a week, again, making sure you're putting the right building blocks before and after, not only to help you adapt to your training, but also to ensure that you maintain a good microbiome is really, really important. So, some quick takeaways for you to think about. If you're somebody that's not doing any exercise at the moment, the first thing is just start. If that means literally going for a 10-minute walk 3 times a week, that's enough. And we know that that will have a really positive effect, not just on your health, but probably your mental health and your microbiome. If you're somebody that is already doing regular exercise, maybe think about, are you actually fueling it properly? Are you giving it any consideration, or are you just eating because you know you're going to the gym or you're going for a run? Is your diet high in whole grains, legumes, fruit and vegetables that are going to help you not only to have a healthy microbiome, but also fuel your training? And finally, don't panic if you miss a training session. It's not going to immediately affect your microbiome. Like we said, the microbiome is transient and reversible. So if you have a bad few weeks or illness takes stock or you can't do what you normally do, don't stress. It's absolutely fine. You will get back on track and your microbiome will also respond to that. I hope that's been really helpful to you. I think often we think about the microbiome and we focus just on diet, but actually it's important to understand that general fitness and moving can also really have a positive influence.